Hello everyone. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for joining this webinar. Today I am going to discuss about the COVID-19 current impact on construction and engineering projects. It's me, Arshad Karim. I'm a chartered quantity surveyor from RICS UK as well as AIQS Australia. Currently, I am working as a construction contract specialist with one of the leading government organizations in Qatar from last 5 years. In addition to that one, I do property development projects in Sri Lanka. Recently, I have completed one of the 5-story projects. Unfortunately, I was not able to hand over to the tenants as I promised due to COVID-19. This is the reason I chose this topic and share with you my experience with you all. So stay tuned with me. Definitely you will gain something from this webinar. Now I am moving to today's agenda. I have divided two main parts of agenda today. The first part, we are going to discuss about the impact of projects in Middle East region. Under this topic, we are going to discuss about the value of awarded projects in between 2016 to 2019, also the forecast in the context of 3 months, 6 months lockdown respectively. Also, we are going to look at it future unawarded projects in the region. These are the first part we are going to discuss about these sub chapters. For this one, I am going to use the statistics data which I derived from the organization called MEED, Middle East Economic Digest. They are doing outstanding jobs in the region. They're collecting the data and analyzing and providing commentary in the regional markets based on the regional projects. In the second part, we are going to discuss about the impact in construction contract. Definitely, due to COVID-19, we have a major impact, especially the cost overrun and time overrun. Under this topic, we are going to discuss about the how, as a contract administrator, you are going to operate the contract, the basis for claim, unforeseen event under the standard forms of contract. Here, standard forms of contract, I have chosen the widely used in the Middle East region and also especially in Sri Lanka as well, the FIDIC 99 forms of contract. Also, we are going to discuss about the PWA and FIDIC 87 standards forms of contract. Also, we are going to discuss about the unforeseen event under civil codes in GCC countries. This is also very important to decide to the unforeseen events under which category, whether the contractor entitled to get a time or money. Also, we are going to discuss about the claim submission, how you are going to claim submission, steps of the claim submission, what are the things you have to consider during your submission. These are the topics we are going to discuss today. First, I am moving to our first part. This is the chart which I derived from MEED as I discussed before. During the 2016 to 2019 period, GCC awarded contracts amount. When you look at this chart, this is showing every country in last 3 years how their project value they expended in terms of capital expenditure. When you look at it overall, total value, the expenditure in 2018, it was $101 billion. Also in 2019, it was $102.3 billion. When you look at the last 2 years, it's showing stability, is almost similar amount of money expended. When you look at it by country-wise, Bahrain and Kuwait showing some decline in the capital expenditure when we compare to 2018 and 2019. Also, when you look at it, UAE also showing some decline in capital expenditure due to there is a difference in supply and demand markets. However, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia showing significantly increasing their capital expenditure from 2018 to 19. Out of 6 GCC countries, Saudi Arabia leading as usual. They are leading in the region. They have already $46 billion projects values. Also Qatar, they increased the value from 2018 to 19 as $13.3 billion. This is the awarded contracts in 2019, from 2016 to 2019. Now we are going to look at the impact of COVID-19. Okay, when you look at this graph, the red color showing the actual amount awarded projects value in 2019. Okay, this is the value we already look at here. 2019, we have almost $102 billion. Okay, this is the red color showing 2019, $102 billion. However, in 2020, we have forecasted $127 billion. There is significantly increase in the project value. Around 27% of value has been increased from 2019 to 2020. Until the COVID-19 arrived, the GCC construction market seems positively. However, once the COVID-19 arrived, the countries are locked down to break the outbreak of COVID-19. Due to this impact, we are forced to revise the construction markets in the region. So this gray color in light gray color showing when we have a 3 months lockdown, what will happen? The meat projects forecasted, there will be a 15% of value will be declined if we have a 3 months lockdown. This, we already had 3 months lockdown at this situation. All countries from end of February, March, April, and May as well, we already had a 3 months lockdown. Therefore, we already lost 15% of capital expenditure value in the region. The most difficult things will arrive when we have a 6-month lockdown. The project's value from 127 to it will fall down to $87 billion. Almost we may lose $40 billion if we have a 6-month lockdown. This is the most worrying things. At the moment, we are nearing 3 months lockdown. We pray for we don't have a more lockdown to avoid we are losing the major projects. So definitely the COVID-19 impacts significantly in the project value in the Middle East regions. Next, I'm going to just key statistics of the currently ongoing projects. At the moment, there are 38,340 projects currently underway by participating more than 25,000 companies. However, in last 30 days, there are 116 new projects awarded, even though we are having significant impact of COVID-19 in the region. However, we awarded new projects 116. The next slides, we are going to see the future unawarded projects in the region. When you look at this, every country having own value, especially the Saudi Arabia, the key players having more than 1.2 trillion projects in the region. Similarly, UAE having 0.8 trillion, nearly 0.8 trillion value of projects they're having. Also, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman also, they're having 0.2 trillion dollars value projects in the region. In the next slides, we are going to see the unawarded projects by the sector. No surprise, as usual, the construction sector showing most of the value of the projects, unawarded projects in the region. It is valued more than $1.5 trillion in the region. Next, we are going to see the summary of the first part of the session. In this session, currently we are most of the participants from Middle East. We are dealing with dual impact of falling oil prices and COVID-19. This is very crucial. Falling oil prices determining the projects whether we have to go ahead with the plan or not. Stability of the oil price is very crucial in the Middle East since most of the Middle East countries are dependent on oil prices. Due to COVID-19, most of the countries are restricted restricted the traveling. Therefore, there is no demand for oil around the world right now. Due to this reason, the oil prices significantly falling. This is very worrying news for the Middle East. Also, we may have severe project fund cut when we face 6-month lockdown in the Middle East region. It is forecasted around 31%. At the moment, we are in the point of 3 months lockdown. We hope this lockdown not go further to avoid the project's fund cut. Also, we experiencing now the construction costs are likely to rise faster than the tender prices. This is most worrying things in terms of contractor point of view, because the contractor right now, they are losing the time and cost as well. This is creating unnecessary tension between both parties and creating disputes as well. Therefore, at this situation, we have to make sure which party going to bear the cost and time. So this is we are going to discuss in the next part mainly who going to bear the time and cost. And recently, the RICS survey, they published the data in Asia Pacific region. The temperature prices for building and civil engineering projects are forecast to rise 1.2% and 2.6% respectively. Also, the construction costs are forecast to rise 2.3%. Also, in the Middle East and Africa, the building tender prices are predicted to rise 1.7%, with construction cost rising by 2.4%. These are the most worrying things in the region. So in this summary, the main reason I have included this first part, I have to give you a message to you all that as a construction professional, we are going to face struggle in the industry unless if the situation back to normal within next 3 months. This is the most worrying things as a construction professional. The struggle include there might be a lot of job cut. Therefore, we have to ready to face in the future. However, we should be ready for that one. The question is how we should be ready to avoid losing our jobs. We have to be more competent in the future. In order to more competent, we have to develop our career. We have to update our knowledge. We should ready to able to handle multitask, especially if you are a quantity surveyor. You should able to handle pre-contract and post-contract. You should excel into both knowledge. Also, some construction organization require some planning engineer task. If you are a quantity surveyor, sometime you should know the planning engineer function, how to use the Primavera, how to update. These are the things you have to develop additionally in order to safeguard your jobs. Also, you have to continually participate CPDs and short courses, especially due to this COVID-19. In the industry, there will be more demand for the claims specialist. So focused on claim specialist, claim management courses. Also, continually develop your knowledge. This is end of the first part. We are going to discuss about the second part, impact in construction contract. Before we go into the deep into the second part, first I highlight that timeline, which is very important to decide whether you are eligible to claim or not. This is very crucial when you're submitting your claim. So keep note on these dates. This is very crucial. When you look at it, COVID-19, the even firstly informed by China on December 31st with 44 new virus cases. Then after, WHO categorized the COVID-19 as a pandemic on 11th March 2020. At present, it has been impacted nearly 5.5 million with more than 3.5 lakh deaths. Around the world, there are many sectors affected by COVID-19. Out of the sector, construction is one of the major sector affected by COVID-19. How it's affected, when you look at the affection, especially construction supply chains are significantly disrupted. Especially the materials come from China and Europe due to travel restriction. Material not arrived on time. Some cases, the production in China totally halted. Due to this reason, the projects are not able to get the material on time. Also, some of the projects location are under lockdown. Due to outbreak of COVID-19, some areas totally locked down, especially when you take it Qatar, industrial area totally locked down more than 1 month. This is totally impact the project's outcome. Also, if you take a lockdown, especially if you are working in Sri Lanka, Colombo area, they have lockdown, they totally locked down for continuously 66 days. There is no activities at all. The curfew order spread throughout the capital of Sri Lanka. There is no activities. The contractor not able to work or not able to get any material. They have increased the cost for the contractor significantly increased due to idle resources. Also, some personnels who are involved in the projects directly affected by COVID-19. Some laborers, some staff members already got infected COVID-19. This significantly impact the project outcome. However, during this pandemic, every company basic principle should be safety of your employees. This is very crucial. We have to survive this period without major health impact to the person. Every company, every organization should consider safety of your employees. This is the principle of this period rather than outcome of the project. Unfortunately, while we safeguard your employees, this contribute delay disruption in project performances, also incurring additional cost to the contractor. Now the question is, who going to bear the cost? Also time. This is very important right now because the contractor didn't do anything wrong. Totally, this is unforeseen events. The contractor not able to finish his project, what he promised in terms of time and cost. So we had to find a way under the contract, rights and obligation of the parties and remedies of the parties. If there is no clear clauses in the contract, unfortunately, all will lead to disputes since it's neither party's default. If this event not default of the both parties, there will be a dispute. This definitely, the contractor will tell you, I incurred additional cost due to unforeseen events. You have to pay for that one. In the meantime, the employer will argue that I also lose my profit, my income due to you not able to complete the projects on time. So in this situation, both parties are victim. So both parties are losing. So how to solve this issue. So in next slides, we are going to explore the standard forms of contract, who going to be the cost and time. If you are project impacted, then what should do next? If you are a contract administrator, you should know how to react on this situation. As a contract administrator, first of all, you should know your contract. This is very crucial. What I am going to discuss here is a standard forms of contract. So, this is the guidelines I'm going to provide, how you going to approach on this situation. So, in order to solve this problem, first of all, you start with your contract, read your contract. This is very crucial. Read your contract, then follow my guidelines. You will find the answer how to solve it. In the next slide, I'm going to discuss about some terminology which is very crucial at this situation. These words are very important. There is four words: endemic, epidemic, outbreak, and pandemic. So in our construction contract, mainly we should know at least these two terms. What is epidemic? What is pandemic? The epidemic defined as a disease that affects a large number of people within a community, population, or region, which is called epidemic. For example, when first time the COVID-19 is outbreak in China during the December and January, it is called epidemic because it's affect within the region, within the country only. It doesn't, at that time, it doesn't outbreak in rest of the countries. Next, a pandemic. What is pandemic? Pandemic is an epidemic that spreads over multiple countries or continents. As we discussed before, the WHO outlined COVID-19 as a pandemic during March 11th, 2020. So until that is the time it is spread to the rest of the world. So you should know these terms. Next, we are going to, as a contract administrator, in order to solve this issue, to find an amicable solution, you should know how to operate the contract. This is very crucial before you approach exploring the clauses and read your contract. As a contract administrator, first of all, you should bear in mind basic contract principle. When you say basic contract principle, you should know what are the formation of contracts, what are the elements of formation of contracts, what is the contents of contract, when contracts going to end. These are the main three steps you should know. When you say formation of contract, you should know what is offer, what is acceptance, what is agreement, those things. When you say contents of the contract, what are the things included in the contract? What are the things can consider as a contract? Especially when you say express terms in the contract, implied terms in the contract, you should know these verdicts. Also, you should know when a contract come to end. Let's say, for example, if there is a termination, if there is a frustration, there is a vitiation, these events, the contract can be considered as the end of the contract. So these are the basic principle of contract. Should be thorough with these terms and conditions. Next, you should know rights and obligation of the parties under the standard forms of contract also, and especially on your contract. When you say obligation, if you are a contractor, you should know your obligation, especially you should know you should know as an obligation, you should complete the projects within the time you agreed and the cost. At this situation, you have to ask yourself, due to COVID-19, are you able to complete the project within the time and cost which you agreed? So this is the major question now. Are you able to perform your obligation right now? What is your rights? If you perform your obligation, you have to right to get your payments. If the project get delayed, if the delay not your fault, your rights get extension of time. These are your rights you should know. Also, you should know your liabilities. If you are not able to perform your obligation, what is your liability? For example, if you are not able to complete the project on time, you are liable to get a penalty or liquidated damages. So you should know these terms. Other obligation, when you say in this scenario, for the COVID-19 scenario, there is a program obligation. For example, according to clause 8.3 of FIDIC 99, if there is a disruption happen, you should submit the revised program. So definitely there is a disruption due to COVID-19. At this situation, if your contract based on FIDIC 99, you should submit a revised program. Also, some contracts require early warning. Early warning means when there is a sign of delay, you should warn your employer. You have to tell your employer about the event. This is according to clause 16 of the NEC contract, especially this contract used in United Kingdom. Also, some contract require regular progress report, especially some contract require every month you have to submit the progress report. So you should be aware of your obligation under your contract. Also, you should be aware of the contractual implication of your contract and where the governing law related to unforeseen event. Wherever you work, whichever country you work, you should know what is your country related to this event, unforeseen event. So this part we will discuss in the second part of the in this chapter. Also, you should know the wording of the standard forms of contract as well on your particular condition of contract. In the next slide, we are going to discuss about the basis of contractual claim. When you say claim, generally the contractor required additional time and money. These are the main elements of claims. So at this situation, due to COVID-19, the question is, can you make a claim? Why you have to make a claim? I'm going to tell you a small example. This will allow you to think yourself how you have to approach this situation. For example, you are working for a contractor, okay? You are working for a contractor. Your project awarded for 100 million for the period of 1 year projects. Okay, during the course of the project, the COVID-19 happened. Okay, the all total scenario has changed. At this situation, are you able to complete the project on time within the cost you agreed? Are you able to complete the project with as you agreed in 100 million? Because, for example, if you have a 10 million profit for this project, you already allow 10 million, 10 million out of 100 million, you have a profit in this project. Due to COVID-19, end of this project, are you able to achieve that 10 million? This is the question. Definitely you are not going to get that 10 million because the project definitely going to delay due to restriction in the labors, as I discussed, supply chain, lockdown. These all very important factor to decide the outcome of the project. So at this situation, you are as a contractor, you're working for profit. You are not a charitable organization. Okay, you understand? You are not a charitable organization. You are here for making some profit. So after all your hard work, all your investment, if you are not able to achieve what you desire to achieve, definitely you are going to disappoint. At this situation, what is your option under the contract? So you have an option to make a claim because the event COVID-19 is not your fault. This is an unforeseen event. It may be act of God. So you have to find a way to claim time and money under your contract or standard forms of contract or country law. If yes, if you make a claim, then under which clauses you should be familiar. So these are the guidelines I'm going to provide in next slides. How to apply which and when to COVID-19. How to apply the clauses. Also, extent and impact of COVID-19 remain unclear and evolving. The most worrying thing is this COVID-19 is keep going. There is no stop. At the moment, you can't decide it up to which extent this will go. So you have to be careful when you submit your claim. So I'm going to give you advice later, slides, how you're going to approach the situation. Also, this presentation will try to find contractual legal guidance for managing rights and obligation in rise of COVID-19. So we will discuss in next slides contractual and legal guidance. First, COVID-19 pandemic under standard forms of contract. So we are going to find the pandemic event, unforeseen event under the standard forms of contract. Generally, the COVID-19 pandemic do engage contractual provisions concerning the consequence of unforeseen events. Definitely, it is unforeseen events. What is unforeseen events? The event cannot be foreseeable during the submission of tender. Definitely, this event unforeseen. Why? This pandemic happened after 100 years. So no one predicted, no one clearly written in any standards forms of contract. Hopefully in future, sometimes we may consider this pandemic disease clear written contract. At the moment, it is mystery for all parties. So I have chosen 4 subheadings we are going to discuss under this heading. First, is it force majeure event? Everyone thought in the industry, is it a force majeure event? So what is force majeure? What is the definition of force majeure? It is an act of God or unforeseen event or exceptional overpowering forces, prevent contractual obligation or change circumstances. These all are the definition of force majeure. However, you have to read your contract, what it says. This is very crucial. In this presentation, I will explore the force majeure under FIDIC 99. Second, does the contract have a change in law provision? So why we have chosen change in law provision? Due to COVID-19, many countries across the world put directives or initiatives to break the outbreak of the COVID-19. So can we consider these initiatives or the directives as a change in law? So we will discuss this as well. Also, is it all under EOT entitlement clause, extension of time entitlement clause? This is also very crucial because we have delayed the project. We have to check under extension of time whether this pandemic or epidemic or any disease included under the contract. Finally, we are going to discuss the pandemic under GCC laws. First, we are moving to force majeure under FIDIC 99 Red Book. According to FIDIC 99 clause 19.1, to qualify force majeure events, it should satisfy all 4 conditions. As we discussed before, force majeure defined as per below. Force majeure means exceptional event or circumstances. First, when you say force majeure, which is beyond parties' control, when you have now, this is your checklist. You have to apply the COVID-19 to all these sub-clauses. Definitely, the COVID-19 is beyond party controls. We all agree because no party able to control the COVID-19. Second, which such party could not reasonably have provided against entering into the contract. Since this is the event happen after 100 years, no one expect this will happen in this year. Therefore, no party can reasonably provide any contingency sums, any risk allowance in the tender prices. This also satisfied. Third one, which is having arisen, such party could not reasonably have avoided or overcome. Right now, no one in the world have reasonably overcome due to This is the disease. It's transferring from human to human. This is something happened after a long time. Also, current generation never experienced how to control human to human because this all the projects and and everything in the world we are interrelated each other. Without human to human, without human participation, it's hard to achieve any goals in the world. Therefore, the COVID-19 satisfies C as well. The fourth one, which is not substantially attributable to other party. What does mean substantially attributable to other party? Because what does mean neither party default. You can't blame contract, for example, in you can't blame the contractor or employer. So both party not responsible for this delay. Therefore, it satisfies D as well. So COVID-19, in order to qualify as a force majeure event, it satisfies the definition. COVID-19 satisfies the definition. However, in order to qualify as a force majeure, it should satisfy under one of these categories. This is also some additional requirements for FIDIC. In addition, 1 to 5 provides categories. Force majeure may include, but is not limited to, exceptional event or circumstances of the kind listed below as long as condition A to D above are satisfied. It is very important to satisfy all A, B, C, D. In our case, COVID-19 already satisfying A, B, C, D. Now we have to look at it, whether we can accommodate this event under one of these 5 categories. When you look at it 1 to 4, these all are war, hostilities, invasion, or act of foreign enemies. Second, rebellion, insurrection, terrorism, military, sport power, revolution. The third one, civil war, disorder, riot, commotion. The fourth one, munition of war, strike. These all are under human control. This is created by human. And the final one, natural catastrophes such as earthquake, hurricane, and typhoon. This is related to natural disaster. Number 5 is natural disaster. When you look at it overall, 1 to 4, this is which is related to war, is created by human. So now we have to apply COVID-19 into one of these events. When you look at it, definitely it should not come under one of these 4 events because this is related to war and due to human. When you look at it, number 5, this is act of God, natural disaster. So when you look at it here, major things, the word COVID-19 is a disease. It doesn't mention any of the word disease or epidemics and pandemics. Therefore, it is not clear whether the COVID-19 comes under force majeure. This is the major things. As for me, I will say COVID-19 doesn't fall under force majeure because there is no words mentioned disease, pandemic, or epidemic. Also, it doesn't fit this under natural disaster. So further, I have included some of the pictures to identify the wording. When you look at this wording, sometimes you very difficult to understand these wordings. You may have first time or some of you may aware, some of you not aware. To make things easy, I have made it in picture so you can easily identify what is war, what is hostilities, what is invasion, what is act of foreign enemies, terrorism, rebellion, instruction, revolution, also what is civil war, disorder, commotion, also this explaining the natural disaster, volcanic activity, hurricane, typhoon. Okay, you can see from this picture. In the next slides, we are going to discuss about the consequence of force majeure. If the contractor is prevented from performing any of his obligation under the contract by force majeure, of which notice has been given under subclause 19.2, notice of force majeure, and suffered delay and incur cost by reason of such force majeure, contractor shall be entitled subject to subclause 20.1. So if contractor consider himself due to force majeure, if he incurred additional time and cost, he have rights to claim. However, there is a condition here. You have to be very careful. You have to read it this B clause. There, this even allow you to claim time and cost. However, in some events, not allow for cost, only for time. So when you read this one, if the event or circumstance is the kind of described in subparagraph 1 to 4, subclause 19.1 definition of force majeure, and in case of subpara 2 to 4 occurs in the country, payment of any such cost. So there is a condition here, the cost only allowed for the sub 2, 3, and 4. If the event 2, 3, 4 only, you allowed to claim cost. For the event 1 and 4, you are not allowed to claim cost, only time. So it is very clear. Number 5 is a natural disaster. This is an act of God. So you are not allowed to claim additional cost. So on my view, COVID-19 also I consider as an act of God. So you are only allowed to claim according to, if you are considered force majeure. However, I am not categorizing as a force majeure. Therefore, you only allow cost only for the natural disaster, which is act of God. So that is the force majeure clause. Also, when the event, if you consider as a force majeure, you have to give a notice according to 19.2. This is very crucial. You have to, if you come to aware the as a force majeure events, you have to give 14 days notice. Also, if you are not able to give a notice within 28 days, you are failing to claim from employer, and this employer is discharged from the liability. So you have to be aware of the time bar of the force majeure. This is also very crucial. So summary is COVID-19 doesn't fall under force majeure. Okay, now this is consequence of force majeure, the clause 19.16 and 19.7. Under this clause, there is an optional termination. If you consider as a force majeure event, either party may give notice to terminate the contract if force majeure event prevents the performance of 84 days continuously. If the event continuously affect your projects, there is a number of days, 84 days continuously, you have rights to terminate the contract. For that one, the event should fall under force majeure events. For the multiple period, which total more than 140 days due to the same notified as force majeure events. Also, clause 19.7, it's a release from the performance. Either party may give notice to terminate the contract if any event or circumstances outside the control of the parties, including but not limited to force majeure, make it impossible or unlawful to perform. When you say impossible, it is a physical impossible. Unlawful mean against the law. So if you want to get the release from the performance, you should be not able to perform. Also, it should be against the law. At the moment, it doesn't look like COVID-19 impossible to perform. Still, you can possible to perform but you can't perform up to the mark what you have planned. This is the problem. Also, governing law provides a right to be released from the performance. Every country law, in case of unforeseen events or force majeure events, they have right to release the performance. There should be a provision right to be released from further performance. Next, according to subclause 19.7, a mere hindering or more difficult or more expensive, less profitable delay to the works would not relieve the parties from performing obligation as impossible mean physically impossible. So this is the outcome of COVID-19. At the moment, what we are facing, it's difficult than before because lack of labor resources due to restriction, more expensive due to prolongation cost, disruption cost, idling charges, less profitable. They can't get the profit what they already planned. Also delay into the works would not relieve the parties from performing obligation. Due to, if you are facing some problem, but still you can perform, it doesn't mean the party can terminate the contract and it will relieve the obligation. It doesn't mean. So you have to be careful while applying this clause. For me right now, COVID-19 is not a force majeure event. So while applying these clauses, you have to be very careful. You will lose your rights under the contract. Here also, generally, the common law doctrines of frustration or prevention may apply. So you should know what is doctrine of frustration. Now we will look at the doctrines of frustration. The common law principles say where a frustrating event occurs, a contract can be automatically discharged so that it's no longer binding on the parties. So you have to identify whether COVID-19 is a frustration event. Therefore, I have categorized what is frustrating event. There is some definition to identify whether the event is frustrated or not. Here, events that may lead to frustrated contract include but are not limited to. These are the some scenarios which is can consider as a frustration. When the government imposing unforeseen restriction on the building, for example, this is related to current pandemic situation. Some of the areas in many countries, they have restricted access to these areas due to outbreak of COVID-19 in order to control the outbreak to other human being. Therefore, you can consider as a frustrating event when the government imposing unexpected restriction. Second, laws being passed that make it illegal to undertake what was promised under the contract. This is due to a new legislation become to an issue to perform the contract as promised. This is also example for the lockdown. Also, you can consider restricted site access. It's mean the project site location unavailable or inaccessible. The fourth one, the cancellation of event that was crucial for the contractual obligation and personal incapacity. For example, if your labor forces or if your superintendents got infected by COVID-19, you are not able to perform your contract obligation as you expected. These are some of the examples for frustrating event. Also, we are going to discuss here about the non-frustrating event. On the other hand, a contract would not be frustrated if express provision is made in the contract for the consequence of an event which subsequently occurred. For example, this is the COVID-19, which is related to disease or epidemic or pandemic. If this wording coming under any of the clauses, for example, if it is come under extension of time clause, you can't consider as a if it is come under extension of time, it's an express provision. Or if it is COVID-19 come under force majeure, it is an express provision. In this case, you can't consider as a frustrating event because it's already expressly stipulated under the contract. Second, if the event does not prevent performance of the contract, rather it just make it more expensive to perform. This is correct. This is truly explaining the current situation. At the moment, what is happening around the world now, you still can perform the contract. However, it's become more expensive to perform when you compare to when we compare if this event is not happen. Also, if the event does not prevent performance of the contract, but instead of delays performance of it, an alternative method of performance is possible. So it's making delay, the COVID-19 making delay. Also, there is opportunity, alternative method to performance still possible when the lockdown is released or when the COVID outbreak is stopped. Also, the event was foreseeable. So definitely the COVID-19 is not foreseeable. Accordingly, COVID-19 pandemic would not come under the frustration clause and no relief under the frustration principle. So I concluded that COVID-19 not fall under frustration because the performance of the contract is still possible. However, it making delay and more expensive to perform. So in order to more expensive, there is some remedies under the contract. You have to right to claim time and cost if it is applicable. So you have to find a way to categorize COVID-19 under the related clauses. Next, we are going to discuss about the change in law provision. When you say change in law provision, due to COVID-19, the many countries' government are imposed new restrictions and initiatives and directives to control the outbreak. Then now the question is whether you can consider these initiatives or directives as a change in law provision. This is very crucial. If we are able to prove that whatever the government take actions to stop the outbreak, which is impact your projects, shall be considered as a change in law. If we are able to prove under the contract, under the FIDIC 1999, you're able to claim time and cost. So here it's matter of application. It's your choice. For this one, I am leaving to you to decide whether you can consider change in law or not. In order to consider change in law, I'm going to give some suggestion according to FIDIC 99. First of all, change in law provision. FIDIC define when we can consider it is change in law. First, when there is an introduction of new law. Second, repeal. Third, judicial. Fourth, official government interpretation of such laws. Fifth, modification of existing law. Under these 5 circumstances, if the COVID-19 initiatives, directives, can you adopt under any of these 5? This purely matter of application. In this scenario, in this case, you have to consult with your legal team or legal person. He is the expert one to answer this question. As a contract person, as a contract administrator, we only should know how to operate a contract, what is signed in your contract. Related to change in law, you have better to get advice who are expert in the field. When you look at it, the contract price shall be adjusted to take account of any increase or decrease in cost resulting from a change in law. So there is definitely you have rights to claim money when you consider as a change in law. Also, there is a condition made after the base date. When you say base date, which is 28 days prior to the latest date for submission of tender. Also, if the contractor suffer delay or cost result of the change in law, such interpretation made after the base date, the contractor shall give notice to the engineer and shall be entitled subject to clause 20.1. So now your task is to prove wherever you work in your country, definitely every country have made some directives and initiatives. For example, in Qatar government introduced measures to stop the spread of COVID-19. One of the steps is here, no more than 20% of the private sector workforce may attend the workplace, remaining work from home. Also, work hours reduced to 6 hours. Also, number of people transported in the buses, in cars are restricted. Definitely, these all will impact the outcome of the project. Therefore, the question is, shall we consider those directives as a change in law? So your approach identify whether government measures constitute a change in law. Therefore, I strongly suggest, as I said before, get advice from your legal team or legal person who are expert in the field. Next, we are going to discuss under the extension of time clause whether the pandemic or epidemic or disease categorized as an extension of time. Under the 8.4, it says the contractors shall be entitled, subject to 20.1 contractor claim, to an extension of time for completion if and to the extent that the completion for the purpose subclause 10.1 taking over the works will be delayed following clauses. The following scenarios contractor rights to claim extension of time. First, the variation, when there is a variation, when there is additional work, here it's a right to get the extension of time. The cause of delay giving entitlement for extension of time, any of the condition. Some of the clauses which is mentioned in the contract, for example, if the employer give late access to the site, definitely the contractor able to get an extension of time, those kind of clauses. Number C, exceptionally adverse climate condition due to poor weather condition. Number D is the very crucial one. This is, for me, this is the one matching with current scenario. This is a clause perfectly matching with current scenario as far as me concerned. But it's a unforeseeable shortage in the availability of personnel. First, definitely there is a shortage in the personnel due to restriction, due to outbreak of COVID-19, due to transport restriction, also goods caused by the epidemic. Yes, definitely. The material not supply chain disrupted, material not able to arrive on time, also government action. Whatever the government action already taken, which we described in previous slides, we can consider as a government action. Therefore, these all three matching with COVID-19. Therefore, I consider 8.4D, which is very much suitable for COVID-19. So this clause is only time-only clause. Therefore, the COVID-19 not entitled to get additional cost. Next, 8.5, what does it say? If the following condition apply, first, the contractor has diligently followed the procedure laid down by the relevant legally constitute public authorities in the country. Definitely, this is correct. Due to the public authorities, the project is delayed. These authorities delay disrupt the contractor work. Yes, the delay disruption was unforeseeable. Definitely, the COVID-19 is unforeseeable. Then this delay or disruption will be considered as a cause of delay under subparagraph B, clause 8.4 extension of time for completion. Therefore, COVID-19 for me falling under 8.4D and only allowed to claim time, not cost. In the next slide, we will going through quickly under the PWA, Public Work Authority, Qatar. If you are working in Qatar, many of the projects still using this contract. This is only clause according to 44 when you can award an extension of time. In PWA, there is no force majeure clauses, only the extension of time clauses. It mentioned when there is, should the amount of extra additional work, any kind of other special circumstances. So I categorize as a COVID-19 other circumstances. When it's happened, the contractor have to give the notices and rights to claim only the time, not for the cost according to PWA. This is the time provision. You have to give the notice within 20 days after you come to be aware of the event. Also, later on, you have to give the full and detailed particulars in order to submit your claim. Now we are going to discuss the summary of COVID-19 position under the standard forms of contract. So far, we discussed about the 4 instances. For example, force majeure event, whether COVID-19 fall under force majeure event, or whether it is a frustration event, or whether it's come under change in law provision, or whether it is come under extension of time clauses. So this is the summary of COVID-19 position according to FIDIC 99, or if you are working in Sri Lanka, it's applicable FIDIC 99 or SPD2. SPD2 is very similar to FIDIC 99. Whoever working in Sri Lanka, you can follow FIDIC 99 as well. Both are almost similar clauses. So what does say FIDIC 99 according to 8.4T, the COVID-19 fall under unforeseeable shortages in the availability of personal goods caused by epidemic or government action. So as we discussed before, COVID-19 fall under this event. So it's applicable only time since it's not a employer culpable delay. Also, FIDIC 87, if your standard forms of contract FIDIC 87 for COVID-19 fall under 44.1E under special circumstances, which is only applicable time. If you are following PWA 2007 contract, which is PWA Public Work Authority of Qatar, clause 44, it's come under similar other special circumstances, which is also only allow time since it is not an employer culpable delay. This is about the EOT, what we discussed. Now we are going to discuss about the summary of the force majeure risk event. FIDIC 99, according to clause 19.1 and 19.4 D, the reason it is not fall under this clause force majeure event because the epidemic or pandemic are not listed under the force majeure. This is one of the reasons. Also, to be a force majeure event, clause 19.1 definition of force majeure must be satisfied all the 4 conditions A to D. This is already discussed. COVID-19 already satisfy all these conditions. And there is another condition under any circumstances listed 1 to 5. This is also one of the factor if you want to consider as a force majeure. So according to this, difficult to fit 1 to 4 because it's related to war, all the clauses, circumstances related to war. There is some possibilities under 5, which is natural disaster, but it is not certain because when you have a clear word about epidemic, shortage in the availability of goods, government action, why you want to consider the uncertainty clause? This is my question. That is the reason I haven't considered COVID-19 as a force majeure. Under this, under this, if you consider time and cost are entitled except 1 and 5. 1 is a war clauses, also 5 is both even under the both these events, the cost are not applicable. So next, a change in law provision according to FIDIC 99 clause 13.7. In my view, government directives can't be considered as a change in law. Whatever the government directives which can't be considered change in law. However, this clause is matter of your application to the scenario using recent government measures directives in your country. Wherever, which country, which part of the world, wherever you work, it doesn't matter. You have to list out all the government change in law or directives. You have to list out the directives or initiatives in order to control the COVID-19, and you have to apply yourself whether you can accommodate as a change in law. This I am leaving to you to decide. It's your choice. It's matter of application. Better to get a legal advice before you come to any conclusion, because the lawyers are the expert on this field, whether we can consider as a change in law or not. However, contractor may submit claim under 20.1 if he suffered delay and incurred additional cost according to 13.7 and A and B. So that is end of the standard forms of contract. Now we are moving to the last fourth subheadings, the COVID-19 pandemic under GCC law. So we already look at it under the standard forms of contract. Still, we have to look at the GCC law. It's very crucial because wherever you work, you have to know in your country what it say about this unforeseen event. I am starting with Qatar Civil Code Law number because where I am working here. This is the reason I choose Qatar as a first choice. Many of the participants from Qatar as well. So according to law number 22, 2004, article 171, what it say? If unforeseen, general, exceptional events occurred and caused the performance of the contractual obligation to become, although impossible, but onerous for the obliged, threatening of a substantial loss, the judge will evaluate the circumstances and both parties' interest and may restore the onerous obligation to reasonable limit. Any agreement to the contrary shall be void. So what do you understand from Article 171? What it say, if any unforeseen event happened and created impossible contractual obligation, heavy responsibility, threatening losses, then the judge may evaluate and restore the owner's obligation to the certain limit, and contrary agreement shall be void. So it's up to the judge to evaluate the situation case by case, and if he find if any party badly affected, he has the rights to restore his obligation within the limit. And also the Article 204, what it say, if a person proves that loss was caused by external cause beyond the person's control, such as force majeure or unforeseen event, the person will not be compelled to pay damages unless there is a stipulation to the contrary. According to this clause, if force majeure event happen, the party not necessary to pay liquidated damages unless any stipulation under the contract. So it's very clear, according to this clause, if the party affected by unforeseen event, he has no need to pay liquidated damages since it is not his fault. Also, we will look at it related to unforeseen events, Article 256, what it say. If a debtor doesn't not fulfill an obligation in kind or is late in doing so, he will be required to compensate the creditor for his loss. Of course, if the contractor delay the projects due to his own fault, he has to pay the liquidated damages, compensate for the employer, unless he shows that the non-fulfillment or delay is the result of an external cause, not of his making. If the delay is not his fault, he no need to pay the liquidated damages. It's also say the same meaning. The Article 402, an obligation will be extinguished if the debtor shows that performance has been become impossible due to an external cause not of his making. It is also say if the performance become impossible due to external cause such like a pandemic event, the contractor obligation will be extinguished or waived due to the unforeseen events. So all the four clauses, whatever the takeaway from Qatar law, this we are going to summarize Article 171, 204, 256, 402. What is the outcome? Termination of obligation of contract in case of established impossibility performed due to force majeure. The party has a right to terminate when there is an impossibility. When you say impossibility, it should be physical impossibility, and physical impossibility also change in law. So the parties has a right to terminate. Also, no payment of liquidated damages for delayed or non-full obligation as a result of force majeure. In case if the results of force majeure, the contractor no need to pay liquidated damages. Also, the law explain discretionary power of the judge or arbitrator to amend the party's obligation in case of force majeure, rendering contract unfairly onerous onto the onerous to one or the parties. What is discretionary power? Discretionary power means the judge make decision based on his opinion and general legal guidelines. This is this decision depend on the judge. So the judge have a power to change the obligation in case if one party affected by force majeure. However, all these four articles doesn't mention about the cost due to unforeseen events. It is silent about the cost. However, it's very clear it's all talking about the time. When there is a delay which caused by unforeseen events, the contractor no need to pay liquidated damages. This is the outcome of the article of Qatar law. Also, I like to highlight other GCC country civil code law which you need to refer. If you are working in UAE, you should be aware of Federal Law number 5 of 1985, Article 273, 249, 287, and DIFC Law number 6 of 2004, Article 82. If you are working in Saudi Arabia, you should know the civil code based on Sharia principle. For public contracts, Article 74 of the new government tender and procurement law, GTPL 2009. If you are working in Oman, you should know the Civil Transaction Law number 29 of 2013, Article 172, 339, 159, 177, Also, if you are working in Kuwait Civil Code Law, you should know the Degree Law number 67 of 180, Article 437, 167, 214, 15, and 293. So I didn't go for further details, which I went for Qatar law. So better if you are working in these countries, you should be aware of these articles. In next slides, I am going to summarize what all the GCC law says about force majeure. What is the outcome, what we can retain from these all articles. Rather discussing detail in every article, I just summarize all the outcome from GCC laws, which will help you to make a decision. The old GCC law doesn't classify what constitute force majeure or external events. The old laws just generally say unforeseen event or force majeure. So it doesn't classify or doesn't give definition what is force majeure or what is unforeseen events. Like we already reviewed the FIDIC 99, it's clearly mentioned what is the definition for force majeure event and what are the circumstances we can consider force majeure. However, in GCC laws, it's not the case. Further, GCC laws suggest that the event of force majeure must be unforeseeable based on the principle of good faith and parties' obligation to mitigate. Of course, in order to qualify force majeure, the event should be unforeseeable. Also, based on the principle of good faith, the party should be mitigate the obligation, should be obligation to mitigate. When you say good faith and good faith, when you say good faith, what is good faith? You have to act honestly, fairly. You should not take advantage of other party difficulties. So you have to be very honest and fair, not destroy other party rights to receive benefits. Also, the event of force majeure must be unavoidable and beyond the defaulting part's control in order to be regarded as a force majeure event. Should be unavoidable beyond the defaulting parties. At the moment, you have to think whether COVID-19 unavoidable on beyond the defaulting parties. Also, force majeure may be established on the grounds of either physical or legal impossibility. This we already discussed. Physical impossibility and legal impossibility. In order to be force majeure should be established on this ground. Further, it says a situation of mere hardship would not qualify as a force majeure. Definitely, at the moment, COVID-19 is just a hardship. So still the contractor able to perform. However, it's harder than before. Therefore, it's not qualified as a force majeure. Also, a situation of mere hardship will be resolved by the judge by fair alteration of obligation. Therefore, under the GCC law, generally discretionary power, the judge have a right to make decision based on the scenario, on legal guidelines, on and also on his opinion. Also, a party can't be executed of its own failures or delay aggravated by force majeure. It's very self-explanatory. It's very clear. You can read it. Also, relief from liquidated damages or other onerous obligation where the works or services have been delayed, interrupted by the force majeure. So all the GCC law providing relief to not to pay if there is a force majeure events, the contractor not to pay the liquidated damages. All the GCC contracts allow not to allows giving relief from liquidated damages. Also further, all the GCC laws regard proof in order to get the benefit or relief from the contract. So this is the end of the GCC laws. Next slides, we are going to move into claim submission. So we all discussed so far about the COVID-19 position under the standard forms of contract and GCC laws. So far, none of them allow you to directly allow you to claim cost. However, it's allowed time only. However, you should know what is the procedure to submit the contractual claims. According to FIDIC 99 20.1, what it say, contractor consider himself to be entitled to an extension of time for completion or additional payment under any clause of this condition. Otherwise, in connection with the contract, the contractor shall give notice to the engineer. So if contractor consider himself, if he entitled to get the time and cost, first of all, what he need to do, he need to give a notice. When he become aware of the delay event, within 28 days, he has to give notice. Otherwise, he will lose the rights to claim. After he's submitting the notice, within 42 days, becoming he aware of the delay event, he need to submit the detailed particulars. The detailed particulars including all the contemporary record, all the claim related submissions. In next slides, we will look at it. What are they? So before submitting your claim, you should know what are the steps you have to make. There are 4 steps I have categorized. Interestingly, before you submitting the claim, you should read the contract. This is very crucial. Whatever we discuss, it is a standard forms of contract. Sometimes in your particular contract, there might be amendment. There might be some condition. You should be, so in order to make a perfect claim, you should be aware of your contract. In order to do that, as a contract administrator, as a project manager, as a planning engineer, you should read your contract. Also, the second step as well, you have to read the contract again. The third step is convince yourself you fully understand the contract. Again, you have to read the contract. So I have given priority to read the contract in order to submit the perfect claim. So claim submission steps. These are the steps you have to follow before you submit the claim. First, you have to submit the notice. In order to the notice, you should know the time bar provision under the contract. This is very crucial step. Without notices, if you fail to give the notice on time, you will lose the right to claim. Therefore, you should be aware notice clauses. For example, clause 8.4 extension of time clause, also clause 13.7 change in law, and clause 19.4 force majeure requires 28 days, and clause 19.2 requires no later than 14 days after becoming aware of the event. These are the number of days you should be aware in order to submit the notices. If contractor failed within stipulated contract period, the employer is discharged from any liability. This is very express term in the contract. So if you fail, if you carelessly submit the notices on time, the employer is discharged from any liability. So to avoid fail to submit the claim on time, submit the notice, you have to make sure you serve the notice on time. Therefore, strictly follow the time bar provision in the contract to remove risk of losing the right to claim. So this is very crucial. Second, mitigate the effects of unforeseen events. This is one of the obligation of the contractor. If there is a delay event, the contractor should not allow, it should allow the project to be delayed continuously. He has to make all the precautions and all the steps to mitigate the delay. This is one of his obligation. Third one, full detailed claim. As we see under this clause, When you become aware of the event, you have to submit the full detailed claim within 42 days from the date it become aware, including full supporting particulars of the basis of claim. In this scenario, full detailed claim cannot be submitted since COVID-19 keep outbreaking. So you have to be careful here. Until today, we don't know when this COVID-19 going to be end. Many people expecting vaccine to be invented and successfully inserted to the human to control the COVID-19. For right now, it is impossible to find a vaccine soon as possible. Therefore, the impact of COVID-19 keep going. So how you are going to submit the claim? So at this situation, also you have to be take care of the time bar provision as well. To avoid the lose to at this situation, to avoid the losing of the claim, you have to submit an interim claim rather than final claim. You have to submit an interim claim while considering the scenario. Therefore, it is advisable to submit the interim detailed claim with compliance with clause 21 point requirements. And also, final claim should be submitted no later than 28 days after the end of the effects. Also, you have to keep contemporary records continuously to avoid your right to claim. So when you say contemporary records, it's all related to the cost which you incurred due to delay. You have to keep the record of actual cost backup, photographs, site attendance, inspection approvals, impacted program, also cause and effects analysis. When you say cause and effect analysis in this scenario, what is cause, what effect you become on your project? Definitely the cause of the event is COVID-19 pandemic event. What caused it for the project? Definitely it increased the cost and it delayed the project. It incurred additional cost and time. So also the contractor should provide on your claim submission on award of contract program a properly resourced and comprehensive program showing how he originally planned to do the work. So contractor has to submit the original plan program. Usually it's called baseline program. You have to submit with your client. Also on submission of claim, you have to submit the actual work done program, a properly resourced and comprehensive program showing how he has actually done the work. These two programs is very crucial determining the extension of time. Now we are moving to the submission. When you say submission, typical section of claim submission include the following main subsection. First, you have to submit the background to the claim, including event that gave rise to the claim, why the event happened. So you have to summarize the timeline of the COVID-19 and briefly. Second, the basis of contractual entitlement, why there is a right to bring a claim. So you have to, in order to identify basis for contractual entitlement, you have to support the contractual clauses related to the pandemic event. And also you can explain why there is a right to bring a claim. So you have to support with this for the contractual clauses. Also the calculation including invoices, receipts, etc., how much is being claimed. So in order to claim at time and cost, you have to provide the calculation. For the calculation for additional cost, you can submit the invoices, receipts, the cost proof which you incurred. Also for the number of times, you have to coordinate with your planning engineer, and you have to insert the COVID-19 even into your program in critical path. You have to identify how many number of days you are entitled to get an extension of time. Also, you have to attach relevant correspondence, which is required to support your claim. In the next slides, we have to consider further consideration which is related to current scenario. There are, of course, other considerations before a claim is justifiable. Some of these include. This is very crucial to succeed with the claims. Many contractors fail to get a claim approval due to the poor submission. In this scenario, COVID-19 scenario, in order to get a successful claim, you have to follow following steps, which will definitely give you merit to your claims. How has the virus affected the contractor and his subcontractor activities? So you can give evidence how it's affected your project's performance. For example, which we discussed earlier, it's disrupted supply chain, it's disrupted the labor movement, it's different, disrupt the site access due to restriction, it's disrupt the contractor labor forces, traveling restriction, everything you can write it down what we discussed before. Also, you can say what activities have been or likely to face delays. So these are the actual scenario you have to apply to the COVID-19. Also, are they affected activities on the critical path? So in order to identify critical path, as a contract administrator, you have to work with hand with the planning engineer. He is the right one to identify the critical paths. Also, can you demonstrate the effect of the delays and predict the effect of on the time for completion? So how it's affect the time for completion on this event? Also, have you given appropriate notice in suitable formats? Make sure what we discuss, you have to give the notice period under the time bar provision under the contract. Also, does the contractor have contemporary records to substantiate the ascertain of the effects of the delays? So he has to submit, you have to record all the contemporary records as in his submission. Make sure these are the checklists you have to follow. All of the above occurs is just good professional practice when it comes to the investigating and preparing a claim. These are very good professional practice in order to succeed in the claim. But it's surprising how many contractors fail to comply and then wonder why their claims fail or at best take a long time to resolve. So when you have a proper claim submission, you have more chance to succeed. When you fail in the first instance, always the employer have doubt on your submission. It's difficult to get approval in the second, third chances. So impress your employer in first submission by considering these factors. So my advice to contractor is that worst thing you can do is ignore the matter. So ignore the matter. This is the worst thing as your contractor and the scenario. If you think that you have entitlement to make a claim, make sure you submit the appropriate notices and follow up with the interim claim as soon as possible. This is one of the main responsibility of the contractor administrator of contractor. So you have to know your notice time bars and you have to submit the claim with appropriate substantiate documents. Also, just submit and don't forget it. Just follow up with your contractor. So when you submit, what is your responsibility? If you are a contractor, what is your responsibility? If you are working for consultant for or employer, what is your responsibility? Whoever is a profession, we are working as a quantity surveyor or contract administrator or planning engineer or project manager, we have to be fair. This is the profession. You have to be a gentleman in the work. If you are a professional, it is not you versus them. In my experience, I have many times experience when every time the contractor and consultant, they're thinking they are versus. Many times the consultant Q versus thinking their job to cut contractor submission. They're thinking that is their achievement. It is not the case. You have to be fair with the contractor submission. You have to evaluate the claim variation and payments fairly in order to protect the profession and the construction industry. This is you have to be fair every time when you do the work. Rather than impressing someone, you have to be fair. Also, my advice for contractor, don't think the way contractor consultant will make cut on your submission, will reduce your submission. By doing that, you always submit some four claims. This will definitely will give you demerit disadvantage on your claim. You also have to be fair on your submission. You have to be read the contract carefully. You have to submit accordingly rather than irritating the employer. Remember that if the claimant can prove the cause, effect, contractual entitlement, and quantum the amount he is entitled what he has claimed, these are the main things in the claims, succeeding the claims. The claim and the contractor, if he can prove the cause and effect analysis clearly, also if he mentioned the contract and entitlement under the standards forms of contract as well as the law of the land, and if he submit the quantum, if he submit the backup invoices, receipts, all the bills what he deserve, then there is no chance for losing their right to claim. So he has more chance if he have submitted perfectly what he entitled. So way forward, by my suggestion at this pandemic situation, you both party work together to protect the personnel involved in the project. As I said earlier, our main priority should be safety of the employees. The reason we are here, we have to protect ourselves from the disease. We have to be free from this virus and make sure we are healthy and we can live more. So this is our main priority. In order to do that, we have to follow the government rules and regulation. Wherever you work, just follow the rules and regulation of the countries and seek best way to manage the project to achieve the project objectives. So first you follow the rules and regulation, then consider in order to achieve your project objectives such as time, cost, and quality. However, the contractor may face many challenges while maintaining progress. When you compare in the industry parties, contractor is the one going to affect more because he may require additional time and cost. Also, many contractor facing cash flow problem on these days. To overcome this, employer also, not only contractor, the employer also lose income from the building if the project not able to complete on time. If even for perfect example from my project, my experience, even though I am not able to complete some snagging work, I am not able to hand over to my tenant. At the moment, I already lose their 4 month rent. This is huge money. So not only the contractor losing, but also the employer also losing. So in above we both party may lose. Definitely, both parties are losing. Therefore, one party should not get any advantage from the situation over other party. So in my opinion, at the moment, both parties are losing. So should not get one party advantage over other party. So both party have to negotiate, work together, speak what your problem you're facing. You have to act together in order to safeguard the provision, in order to take out the profession. So finally, I am come to conclusion. What we discussed so far, under the old standard forms of contract, there is a possibility to get an extension of time for neutral delay as a force as a COVID-19 as a neutral delay since it's not fault of the both parties. However, for the additional cost, there is a no direct qualifying provision for COVID-19 since it is not the fault of the contractual parties. It's the standard forms of contract and relevant country laws are providing relief for time, but not for cost. That is a summary of the outcome so far. Under the applicable law, it's relief from liquidated damages. However, for additional cost will be resolved by the judge by fair alteration of obligation. Yes, it's already providing relief for under the applicable law of the country, especially we consider the GCC law. It's providing relief for liquidated damages. There is no doubt. However, if the contractor incur additional cost, the judge have a discretionary power to determine for the evaluate the additional cost and give the decision for the party case by case. Also, you should know that not only your company affected, but also all stakeholders affected. You have to keep on your mind. You just not blame other parties. Every party who involved in the project, everyone is affected. So you have to consider this one in order to keep calm yourself. So your priority should be to get the project safely, efficiently, and cost effective as possible despite the disruption. Even though there is a disruption, the contractor main priority to run the project safely and efficiently and cost effective. This is, you have to revise your strategy to achieve this objective. Next, if all parties agrees a sensible way forward, it would be better while protect your position. I strongly suggest in order to move forward, rather than dispute yourself for both party, rather than spending some money to pay arbitrator, mediator, conciliator. Both parties sit together. First, you have to negotiate yourself. Both parties describe what you are losing right now. This is very serious. Rather than disputing, issuing warning letters, sending here and there, and wasting your time, sit together and be transparent about what you're losing, what you are getting right now. So openly talk and resolve it within the parties rather than seeking a third party dispute resolution. Further, contract can be amended anytime with both party concerned. This is one of the area you have to consider, even though under the contract, when your rights and obligation determined, still within both party concerned, you have rights to amend the contract. Despite what the contract say, I would encourage all involved seek to reach the agreement on a course of action. So encouraging to involve seek a reach agreement after you come for any conclusion, any determination, any revised rights and obligation, you can revise your agreement. Ideally, one which will be least harmful to the parties and the projects. So what it's motivating here, it's motivating mitigate the damages for both parties and sharing the responsibility of the losing money and time. Finally, the agreement you have signed should be documented in legally binding manner. If you are come to any conclusion, if you make any amendment to the contract, you have to make it legally by doing binding. So this is also very crucial stuff. So this is all about my conclusion. So finally, we are moving to end of this webinar. I would like to thank you all for listening this webinar for such long time, and I would like to thank you for your attendance. I hope you stay safe yourself and protect others as well. Due to time concern, I'm not able to accommodate question and answer session on this webinar. If you have any further clarification, kindly mail to my mail address is here. Also, you can WhatsApp me on this number for your further question. Finally, I would like to thank you all and stay safe. Thank you for joining this webinar. Thank you. Goodbye.